welcome to another episode of Car Addiction. Today we're going to talk about the most anticipated video of this year. So many people were asking about what happened to the Skyline, where is it, da 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 da. A lot of the regular viewers, you would know the Skyline was another knife for the longest time, and it took way longer than we actually anticipated due to a couple of reasons and happened and da 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 da. Let's not go into details of that. The fact of the matter is the car's done, car's here. Yeah, let's use the car's done with a hint of salt, and I'll tell you why. It's almost done. If this is your first time in my channel, I'm a huge Nissan enthusiast. I got 4 300X twin turbos. Luckily one of them is gone and the other one is on the way out, so I'll be left with 2 300X twin turbos, and I'm happy that I only have 2 left. And then I have an R32 Skyline, an S15 Sylvia, and that hard body. If this is your first time in my channel and you're under the age of 21, stop, watch anything else in the interweb. Don't try to be a car enthusiast. Don't try to be into the JDM game, because it is absolutely detrimental to your financial health. Now the warning is out of the way, let's talk about this guy. First and foremost, the most notable thing is I'm missing the hood. This is not the hood. The hood that belonged to this car is right there. And it's there for a reason, because due to an incident that happened at the mechanic shop, I had to scrap the hood and go with another hood. So I had 2 options. I can spend the money to get another GTS-T hood, or I could splurge a little bit and get something that I wanted. Now, I really wanted a GTR hood. The main reason is they're aluminum, they're lighter. The GTS-T hood is steel and it's heavy. That thing is about like 35 pounds, something ridiculous like that. Maybe a little bit more than that. But I found the opportunity to get something that I wanted to get. So instead of going to a Cybon carbon fiber, because people love that stuff, or a GTR hood, blah, 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 I came across this website called Rocket Seat. They're out in BC. They had a great price for the hood. Now, what they also had was a great shipping rate. It was $200 from BC to here, whatever you can fit on a skid. So it would come on an LTL, blah, blah, blah. So I was like, oh, interesting, just $200. It doesn't matter what else I add to it. They're like, yeah, as long as it fits on one skid, that's $200. I was like, so I bought the grill. I bought a GTR lip to go under, and I also bought a garnet flap. Those are not in the car or not installed in the car yet. I will get them done eventually. I'm just dragging my feet on it because I just got the car back, and as you can see, there's a mess. My backyard is an absolute mess because I'm finally putting the garage in. So there's a lot of money tied up everywhere, so I'm just being careful where I spend my money. Now let's go back to the hood. I love this hood because it's a vented hood. I don't know if I ever talked about this in any of my vlogs, because the car always had a front mount intercooler setup. With any front mount intercooler setup, and if your car did not come from the factory like that, it blocks the radiator from getting complete airflow. What that does is a lot of the times your car may or may not run a little too hot. There's a couple of ways to go about it, and one of the ways is you get a vented hood. Now, more air can fly through the hood and blah, blah, blah. More air can go through the radiator and it will keep the temperature down a little bit more. Another thing I did is I had to change the thermostat because it was an original Nissan thermostat and it's about 34 years old. So I splurged myself and went with a Nismo thermostat. Nismo thermostat, they crack open at 62 degrees centigrade, not Fahrenheit, 62 degrees centigrade. So that helps to keep the engine cool a lot more with the restriction at the front. The thermostat cracks open more. And with the vented hood, the issues that I had with the car heating up, especially in a hot day, especially on a bumper-to-bumper situation, I never overheated, but I could always see the needle is just a tad bit higher than where it should be. After I did all of that, now the needle stays pretty strong and pretty straight. So that's one of the reasons I wanted to go with this hood instead of going with the GTS-T hood. Now, in terms of price point, a GTS-T hood, the cheapest one I found was about $250. Not in Ontario, it still had to be shipped in from wherever the hell they were in. Calgary. To get a hood shipped in from Calgary is about $300. So by the time it's said and done, I was looking at $550. This one, though, something that I wanted was $650 plus tax and shipping, $649. Canadian. To me, that was a far more better alternative, and also because of the holes and whatnot, this comes with a drip tray. Yay! That basically goes under here and it screws to the hood. The use for this is if you park the car outside and it rains or whatever, I just put this drip tray inside so the engine bay stays nice and toasty. No water gets onto the critical component of the engine bay. And also, because I'm a fanboy and I have my front fenders and rear fenders are pulled. It's not as a wide body as a GTR from the factory, but it's not a GTS-T body lines. Let's show you the body lines again. I hope you guys can see the body lines and the pulls and the fender lines, because these are not stock. The person I bought the car from, he figured out a way to mess up the fenders, so I had to give it to a body guy, and he spent hours and hours and hours pulling the fenders the way he thought it fits the best. And I actually like his vision, so we kept it at that. That was one of the other reasons I wanted to get this hood, because frankly I can't afford a R32 GTR. The prices of them in a car this condition for an R32 GTR, you are looking somewhere between 50 to 70 grand range, and me being a broke boy, I just don't have the money. So guess what? I'm gonna fake it till I make it. A fake GTR. Now let's all take a moment and see what has been done to it. I'm gonna take some slow-mo shots. I hope I can show you what has been done. So what has been done to the car? Everything. Every little hose has been changed. If it carried anything hot or cold, has been changed to a braided system. When I say hot or cold, if it carried oil, it's been changed to a braided system. If it carried hot water or cold water, other than the radiator hose, it's very hard to do a braid system here. It has been done. I have an aftermarket oil filter location kit. Whole thing is braided hose. And I also have an aftermarket oil cooler system, braided hose. Under the plenum, it's hard to see. There was a lot of issues. So let's start with the plenum. I'm gonna go left to the right. First of all, the battery tie down. The car never came with one, and every aftermarket option I saw, it was a little too high and I was hitting the hood. So I just left it that way. But now we have a low profile battery tie down. It's hitting nothing, and it's actually doing a pretty good job. Right here is the Greddy fuel filter relocation kit. Now this one, the oil that's coming here and going away, everything has been replaced to a braided hose system, and then it connects to an aftermarket oil filter right over here. That's basically Greddy oil filter. But the hoses, some of the hoses were leaking, so everything's been swapped up. It has a very fancy aftermarket coolant reservoir, which I didn't have before. So that's in. I already had the coil rad and the cooling fan shroud. Now going back to the plenum. If you guys have seen some of my other videos where I imported a certain brand plenum from China, from their factory direct. Now, we were gonna put that plenum in, but we came out with a couple of issues. Number one issue was that plenum was made for 14mm injectors. The only 14mm injector that was available was, other than going with the Bosch setup, and didn't want it to go with the Bosch setup, was Injector Dynamics 1050. Now, this is an RB20 with it. Injector Dynamics 1050, not a good idea. It's way too big. Yes, you can probably tune it with an aftermarket standalone system, but I'm gonna go with an Istune and it will be pain in the royal arse. So we decided to stay with, I was under the impression this is a Freddy intake setup, which is not that. So we took this out. There was a lot of issues with the weld that was done before. Whoever did it was worse than me in welding. A person shouldn't be touching a welding machine, but we pressurized this and found out all the holes, and that all the holes were fixed. Now this system is very interesting. This is an RB26 intake that's been mated to an RB20 runners. Now, one of the things people always complain about going with an aftermarket, because an RB20 really appreciates a long runner system for low end torque. Now, if you notice on an RB20 that the whole intake comes up to here, it goes all the way, so much wasted lineup and whatever, but apparently it helps with the torque. Now, staying with a system like this, it's a little better because it does not dissipate the torque. We still have the longer runners, so it helps out a little bit. Other problem with that intake was it had a 90mm throttle body. A 90mm throttle body with a 1050 ID and a 3076 twin turbo is a bad combination for an RB20. If it was an RB26, holy smokes, that's the thing you should be doing. But RB20 heads, no matter what you do, it just, even you port the heads, port and polished and blah blah blah, just doesn't have the airflow to justify that kind of upgrade. So it not only that, everywhere in the forum or whatever, leave it in the comment section if you disagree. It just won't help me to get the power I want, and maybe at the top end, but the daily drivability will be not a good idea. Next one is this massive front mount intercooler setup. So this one from end to end is about 34 inches. It's about 24 inches high and about 3.5 inches wide. It's another gradient intercooler that's rated for 600 plus horsepower. Now, I'm not going for that, but it's good to have the option. The previous intercooler that I had was only 24 inches wide, 12 inches high, and I think 2.25 inches wide. And yeah, so which was probably adequate for the stock turbo, but now I'm with the 3076 wheel ball bearing turbo. Just doesn't cut it, and more airflow, more cooling in the charge pipe will only help you. Now, there are a lot of things we splurged on this. Pretty much everything is Vibrant because 13 Motorsports, they have a really good deal with Vibrant, and he helped me set up everything with Vibrant. Now, this car could be a Vibrant sponsored car. Vibrant, reach out to me, we can do a deal, okay? There's close to $7,000 of Vibrant stuff in this car. I hope my wife doesn't watch this video. Anyway, let's go back. Now, these clamps, they are called the HD clamps from Vibrant. These are the new, latest, greatest, the most fanciest of the clamp. Remember back in the day, you would put a pie hose or pancake hose or something like that and clamp over here, clamp over here. That way the engine can vibrate a little bit and not take the vibration down. Well, these are the solution from Vibrant, because what this does, it allows for movement, but it's airtight. Go figure. That's amazing. All right. And they're expensive. Anyway, over here we have a 3-inch line that basically goes in. There are a couple of sharp turns that it has to take and come right over here. I don't know if you guys can see. Now, previously the blow-up valve was set up somewhere in this area, but now it has been moved to this location for better boost calculation. Because I'm running a giant ass turbo, it's an overkill for a RB20. I mean, a 2860 or 2871R would have been just fine, but it's a 3076. It's a big boy. So we need to figure out boost creep and whatnot. So I'll come to that in a bit. Moving over, all the fuel lines has been changed. All the lines under the plenum, there's a bunch of things under the plenum has been changed. There's 2 NOx sensors, all new. Oil pressure sending unit has been changed. That's new, I believe. And then all these sensors, they're all new. Just cause what's not new are these not Spitfire coils. I have OEM coils. I'm just going to go back to OEM in the back. Now, when I do the tune, there are a couple of things I'm going to do. Maybe I'm going to stay ahead. We'll come back to that one. And then all these hoses were previously not routed correctly. Now they are. But I have a little bit of issue. The issue is my tuner suggested, because we're going to be a NIST tune, he does not want it an atmospheric blowout system. He wants a closed loop system. So I'm gonna have to put a hose on the blow up valve, run the hose all the way here and connect to one of these. Now if I connect to one of these, yeah, I'm just gonna have to figure it out and play with it. So I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna have a Vibrant catch can setup. That way these two can go to the catch can and one hose will come back to here and one of these bungs will be free. Then I can go back to the blow up valve and connect it over here. That way I'm not making this area too complicated. It'll be easier for me to manage. 3 is good, 4 might be a little too crowded. Next, going to the intake setup. Luke asked me what do I want and I'm like, I don't know, You tell me. He basically put that's a 5-inch to 3.5 or 3 something vibrant all the way. I put the bungs in vibrant, and that's where the math, and this is my very old school Blitz titanium filter. Duh. Under that, we had to go with the CX Racing manifold, because the Chinese manifold that has been welded by a child labor was very restricting and it just wouldn't cut it. So we decided to let go of that one and pull the band-aid, put a CX Racing unit in it. That way we know it's good for some time, it's good for X amount of horsepower, and we're not gonna have an issue with flow and blah blah blah. Now also the CX rating setup did not account for a wastegate. This turbo does not have a built-in wastegate. You need an external wastegate, and guess where that is? I don't know if you guys can see right there. The blue little thing is a 44mm tiled wastegate with a, you see that? You see that? That's a screamer pipe. Yeah, that's a screamer pipe. So this exhaust is loud. So right now, because I don't have a tune, I'm still on the Minds setup. I don't exactly know what the Minds is rated for. We put a 7-pound spring on the wastegate. That way, you know, we do a little better job of maintaining the boost and blah blah blah. Luke told me to stay under or within 11 point something on the AFR. So I noticed I went as high as 4 psi, and I stayed at that. I just didn't want it to go to 7 because I just don't know. I don't have a tune, and I really don't want to push it or find out. So that's that. Here's the exhaust system. So it's basically a whole custom-made 304 stainless steel exhaust. It starts here, I believe, at 3.25. It keeps going, and then it keeps widening. The whole thing is vibrant. You name it, I got it. It's a vibrant setup, and V-band and 304 stainless steel. He even put a flex pipe. I'm like, do I need a flex pipe? Okay, fine, put a flex pipe in. Yeah, I got a flex pipe. And yeah, it's a very free-flowing exhaust. And this car always had an issue with pops and bangs because it was always putting some extra fuel in, which is fine in my opinion, because I don't mind running a little rich rather than lean. But now, oh my god, when it gets hot, the exhaust system gets hot, because the stainless steel really gets hot and it likes that. The pops and bangs are loud and very predictable. I can actually make it happen. I shouldn't be able to, but I can make it pop without revving the Jesus out of it. Now, going back to the turbo, the oil feed line is here, and this is the coolant line. And under here, right here, there's an AN10 oil drain line. One of the biggest issue that people have with an aftermarket turbo, especially with the Chinese turbo, is they don't put a big enough oil drain line. So there's too much oil pressure inside the turbo that over the time it makes the seal leak and now you're smoking, whole 9 years. So putting an AN10 line helps with that, and it will help a Chinese turbo last a little bigger, because your boy is not rich enough to spend the money on a gear. That's the truth. Now, the turbo had to be reclocked, relocated, because it was hitting this. I don't know if you can see. The gap is very little. On top of it, they also machined these washers so that they can put a little bit more gap in. While he was doing all of that, he realized the power steering reservoir, oh, it's low, I'm gonna put some fluid in, was coming in contact with this, the cold side. So what he had to do is he relocated this, and there was an issue with not this one. He changed these hoses, but the original hose, that one. So he put a vibrant quick release one here. So yeah, he did, I know he did. And that's a good thing. My power steering rack is leaking a bit. I should have get it done when the engine was out. Oh, speaking of that engine was out. When it was out, he gave me a list of stuff he needs to do to stop all the leaks and, you know, basically general maintenance and upgrades. So we changed all the gaskets and the whole 9 yards. What we didn't do is do the 120K kit or the timing belt kit, because it was only done 2 years ago, and I probably driven another like 10,000 kilometers or whatnot. The kit is still fine. That's why we didn't do it. And you don't need to pull that engine to do the kit anyway, so whatever. So the engine was outside. It's been pressure washed, wire brushed, all the rust and gunk and all gone, freshly painted with a high heat enamel coating. And then we sent these valve covers to match the Gulf Oil livery orange. those pieces too, they came back. So yeah, the engine got an overhaul. Speaking of the engine, it's attached to the transmission. Okay, so the clutch that I had and this tranny was okay, but I also knew it was slipping at different times and blah 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 blah. I always thought, like, since we were pulling that engine, it's a great idea to get a new clutch, which I did. I went with a company called Impact. Not necessarily a known brand, but you know what, I found a couple of good reviews. They sell it on Rock Auto, and because it's an RB20, it takes the same clutch kit as a Z32 NA. Went to Rock Auto, found that kit. I think it was like 200 bucks shipped to me with taxes and everything. Very inexpensive, but it was not their base one. It was the one with a high torque version, so it can handle double the torque of a VG30 NA. A VG30 NA creates about 180, so it's good for about like 360 to 370 foot-pounds of torque, which is pretty much what we're trying to get out of this. Initially, my estimate was if I can get close to 300 horses at the wheel, it should be fine. Luke was on a different page. He wanted 4, or at least close to 4, and that's why he did what he did. Yes, you know what? I will be happy with 350. I mean, I think when I go to the tuner, I'll tell him, let's cap it at 350 because I don't want to extract the full potential of the engine. I would rather stop it around like 70% so I don't blow this. There's a lot of money involved, so I want to keep it running for a while. Once that was done, he also dropped the tranny. Now, something he did with the shifter. He never talked to me about it. He never charged me for it, but he did something with the shifter. Because before I dropped the car, the shifter thing was pretty loose. You know, you will put it in gear, it will go everywhere, but in the neutral point, it was, you know, flipping around, And a car with 34 years or whatever, without rebuilding anything, I accepted it because that's how it is. But I don't know what Luke did. The shifter now is very strong. I mean, very tight. It almost feels like, wow, it's brand new. It goes to the gears very well, It's fantastic. Sometimes in reverse, it happens with my Z. I would have to go to reverse a couple of times until it got into reverse. This, stop doing it. It just gets into reverse first time, which is great. Going back to the clutch pedal. God, it is heavy because I went with a high torque disc and a high pressure plate. That pressure plate in this one, it's heavy. You almost get a workout. Like, if I don't warn you and you get in the car, you're gonna stall it. It's heavy. Going back, I had a couple of issues with the drive shaft, the bushings, the carrier bearings, and the drive shaft hanger. So on the highway, on diesel, or blah blah blah, there were a couple of random vibrations, and idiot me didn't really know. So I gave it to Luke. He looked at it, he's like, oh yeah, you need this. So all of that has been done. So because I went with a wastegate and a boost controller, that AEM True Boost had to be relocated, rewired, and before this one was here and this one was here. Now it's wired this way to handle an external wastegate. Go figure. While we did all of that, we also put an AEM AFR because I didn't have an AFR before. When you're tuning a car and whatnot, having an AFR is very, very important. Right now, the AFR and the boost gate is sitting on top of the steering. The steering wheel has been changed. Pretty sure I talked about that NRG steering wheel. I was sick and tired of using that fake gnarly steering wheel. It was, I don't know, initially it was fine, but over the time it got softer and softer. So I decided, you know what, it's probably getting a little bit more dangerous, so I might as well change it and get something that's safer. So I stopped being a cheap ass and I forked out the money for an NRG wheel. Interior wise, everything stays as it is. I'm sure you guys remember these reproduction or fake Nismo 400R seats. They're still there, they're fine. That is it, I think. Oh yeah, long story short, this section had to be re-welded, blah blah blah. He figured out a way to make it work. The throttle linkage wasn't working. He had to shorten it, do all of that. Got a lower oil pan gasket, new fresh oil change, fresh tranny oil change, fresh diff, brake booster, oil change, fluid change on that one, a slave cylinder, fluid change on that, new slave cylinder. I'm pretty sure I'm forgetting something, but yeah, that's pretty much all I can think about. Oh yes, to get a GTR hood in a GTS-T isn't that easy, and it's not. You would think it's a direct fit, but it's not. You have to get a GTR hood latch and GTR hood risers, or else they just won't fit. I had to get it from Richard Ramanath. What else? I can't think anything of it right now. My head is not working, but you know what? Let us leave you with a cold start that I did in the morning. yeah, I guess that's basically the end of it. There's another video, maybe it will come before this, where I take it on a drive and, you know, we talk about the R32. Yes, this thing is loud. Oh man, you get R32 in like 1 or 2 psi. At 4 psi, your neighbors will hear you going R32. So this turbo is good for, I believe it's efficient till 21 or 22 psi. I don't think this engine can handle any of that, so we're probably gonna cap it around like 14-ish psi. Right now it has a 7 psi spring on the waste gauge, and you know, we can put a 14 psi spring, and that's probably where I want to be, and that's probably where it should be good to go, towards 350, 360 horsepower and probably 320 foot-pounds of torque. Now, things I need to do before it can hit or it can go to the tuner. First, the fuel pump. Sounds like it's going up because every time you start, it needs a little throttle, and I don't hear the pump as loud as I used to. So I will upgrade to either a Hellcat pump or a Wellbro 455 or 255. I have to do the calculation setup. Now the Wellbros or any other pump, any other aftermarket pump other than a Nissan pump, does not work well with an FCPU, fuel pressure regulating unit, because FCPU will have a 3 voltage, 6, 9 and 12 for different speeds and different loads, where the Wellbro likes 12 because he wants to push all day long. So for that, I'm gonna have to install a fuel pressure regulator so that I don't flood the system. That needs to be done. And then on Nistune, I also want to get rid of these, whatever these injector coil packs are. I want to upgrade to either an R35 or an LS coil pack, but most probably an R35, because lately the people has been doing that and they're very responsive. Then going back to the MAF, this is an RB20 MAF, specifically for an RB20, and this is one of the most inferior MAF in the MAF lineup of Nissan. One of the better MAF for Nissan is the one that came with the Z32. One of the better MAF, it came with the Z32. So I will be swapping it out with the Z32 MAF, and it has a wiring harness to work. So we'll get all of that done on a Nistune. So that will also help eliminate this guy. This is a transistor-based PTU. The failure rate on these PTUs are extremely high, so you can get a miss or it will actually become a hassle when you're tuning it. So getting rid of that, going with another 35 qualified, the tuner will have a better time tuning the car, being more accurate, more precise, and better results. That's my plan, and that's what I'm gonna do with it. So if you think I'm missing something, if you have any question, leave it in the comment section. I always answer to all these questions. If I said something which you have a difference of opinion, I want to know, because it's a learning opportunity for everybody else. A lot of people reads these comments, so please don't be ashamed, but leave it in the comment section. Somebody will correct me or you. It's an education. Other than that, yeah, in terms of the tune, honestly, I don't know if I will be doing it this year. Partly the reason being money. Money's a little bit tight. This garage will be 70,000 before I can do anything. So money is definitely a little tight, and I just want to make sure I'm careful with money. So I had a very brief discussion with the tuner, and we'll probably see him next year, springtime, like March or something like that. Again, next year, March. That guy will go to the tuner too. You know why? Because that might be getting a Haltech system. Yes, I got a Haltech, but that guy. I really should put a Haltech here, but that guy. Now, I have the Nistune system, Nistune Type 2, blah, blah, blah. Nistune is good, better than stock, but I don't know. From here to next year, it's about 6-7 months. If I can save the money, if I can, I don't know, jerry-rig my way to pull a trigger on a old school Haltech or Nistune, something like a Link. I would love to get a Link, actually. Link G4X, if I can swing it, if I can afford it, I'll do it. So I'm gonna finish this video with a pinch of salt, because there are a couple of things that are unknown and uncertain, and that's okay, because that's just life, buddy. If you like what you see, please hit the subscribe button and bell notification. A lot of you guys watch my video but don't subscribe, but please help me out, man. Like, this thing was so much money. I mean, YouTube doesn't pay me enough, so it's a lot of my money. If I can't generate a little bit more funds from YouTube, trust me, I'm not profiting. It will go in my car and I can make more content. Anyway, thank you for making it to the end of the video, and I'll see you in the next one.